Hey, Buffs Nation, welcome into another edition of S2S Colorado Live. As always, I'm your host, Manny here. Um, just want to thank you all for tuning in. Make sure to follow me on X at Manny_303, IG at 303_Manny. Again, Buffline is always open, 970-614-5771. And make sure to follow us as well on wherever it is that you get your podcast. We are, on every single one of those major platforms. So again, make sure that you're checking us out. And if you could, we really appreciate. Again, it is not required. Just any contributions to the show would be much appreciated. At the Venmos at Manny S2S. So today we have it is our Wednesday show where we'll go over a couple of news and notes of the day in the Ralphie report, but we have a special guest with us today, Parker Ainsworth from Locked On COOGS, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We made some time yesterday night, carved out some time, so we're going to do a deep dive into Colorado versus Houston. Big game Phil this week. Initially looking at the schedule, it didn't. This is the first. What's the right word? It's the first game in Big 12 play, but man, it feels like it is carrying a lot of weight, and we'll get into all of those different things. But let's just dive into the Ralphie report. So, injury report. I'm not sure if a lot of you caught that, but there are 19 total players on the Colorado injury report. So, as you can see, out cornerback Tayon Parks, safety Terrence Love, cornerback Kyle Carpenter. Again, I don't want to go through the whole thing, but one that sticks out there, two, I should say, that stick out, defensive lineman Samuel Okunloa. He has been out. He's been dealing with an injury. I can't remember exactly what it was, but he's out, already been ruled out. Gabriel Lightfoot, he will not be playing, our transfer from Fresno State. So again, I think, as well, we'll jump into it here in a bit, but that not a good sign for the Colorado depth at defensive line. Doubtful, Kareem Harden, who is getting some reps there at right guard, next to Johnson right there. So just some names keep an eye on. Questionable: Marion Miller, Dallin Hayden, Simeon Price. So those are three big ones. Amarian, I do not think that he is going to go this weekend. From what Prime said in his press conference, again, it does not sound that way. Hamstring injuries can be tricky. This is no different. So this is a little bit, I don't think he goes. Dallin Hayden, it doesn't feel that way, especially on a short week. Maybe he'll get a carry or two. But again, I do not expect to see Dallin Hayden playing as well. Simeon Price, I do expect him to go. Your probables, right? Guys that'll more than likely play, right? Taufik Bayard, Makari Vickers, Cam Michael, Martavius French, Kylan Salter. Now, Cam Michael, though, he was doing today. It was kind of crazy, though. He was doing some drills today at defensive back, right? Doing backpedaling, dropping. So just kind of curious to see what that looks like for Cam Michael. Again, just an amazing athlete, a complete burner. That dude has to touch the field. So hopefully we get to see Cam Michael play this week. And we'll see. Press conference today. So let's move into those. Or was it from yesterday? I think it might have been from yesterday. But Coach Pecco, so we handed out game balls on Monday. So every week, just to talk a little bit about the game balls. Game balls are only given on winning weeks. You're right, where the team gets a W. So we have our offensive player, defensive player, special teams player of the week, and our freshman of the week. We handed out a game ball this past week for our defensive player of the week. That went to Keaton Wade. So Coach Pecco had some good things to say. Coach Pecco said number 27 Wade, he's been really, really good for us. He's really good on the edge and getting pressure and defeating his blocks. And again, shout out to our guy Jack Harlow there at Sports Illustrated. He allows us, let him know that I would give him some credit. So every time you see this, we're going to shout out Jack Harlow. Does fantastic work covering the buffs for Sports Illustrated. Make sure that you guys go Google him, subscribe to his or bookmark his post every day. He is fantastic. So Sports Illustrated, Jack Harlow, he covers the bus. But this is no shock after the game that Keaton Wade just had. Just a fantastic game. He had, I believe it was two TFLs and a sack, but he was all over the field. When you turn on the film, he's one that pops off. So just really excited to see him get some recognition there. And then there was about Brandon Davis Swain. So Coach Prime talked a little bit about him, who is just BDS. He's balling right now. So just real excited for what his future holds here at Colorado. Just seems like, everyone has to kind of go through that freshman year, especially on the D-line, O-line, those positions in the trenches, just getting bigger and stronger. That's what it's all about. So, but what Coach Prime said is we got a surprise for him this week as well. I hope he didn't disclose that, but we got a surprise for him. He's been doing well. We're going to extend his role. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what that means, because he did go on a little bit further to say, yeah, he'll be playing more. So is that the surprise? Or, I was looking Brandon Davis Swain up in high school, and he played a little bit of offense. So are they going to let him, play that, maybe possibly that Mike Vrabel role, go catch or fullback role and let him get into the end zone? That would be really cool if they did that. But again, just really excited of BDS's his progress he's making right now. This is fantastic stuff. Really good to hear, especially on that defensive line that needs a lot of help right now with those two. Okunloa and Gabriel Lightfoot not being a go. So expect to see him start this week and expect him to play well. Now, one of the last things that I want to talk about before we get into our deep dive with Houston with Parker Ainsworth of Locked On COOGS is Prime. There was the report earlier in the week or early, like a day before that. I think it was Thamel reported that basically that Ryan Staub is going to be the starter. Now, Prime said he didn't know yet, or he does know and doesn't know, but again, he's not naming a starter. And a lot of people were like, well, he needs to make up his mind. He needs to do this. This is just kind of how Prime rolls. So like, there's no big deal to me. It doesn't mean anything. It's just that gamesmanship throughout the week that Prime's playing. So, and again, I'd be doing the same. So, but this is a perfect segue into this conversation with Colorado and Houston, for prepping us, getting us ready for this game. Again, one that's on the surface when it first came out, didn't seem like it was going to be a big game. This is a big game, right? You want to say the first game of Big 12 play. This is big for Colorado, right? They go in there, get a win, right? They're +1 in the win column. Now we're sitting at 2-1. They lose 1-2, and this is not one that most people predicting Colorado's schedule had as a loss. And right now, I believe it's 5.5-point underdogs. I guess as of last night when I checked, that line is moving. It's fluid. So again, I am. I think this is a perfect segue. But before we do start, I'm going to put across the bottom our guy Parker's information. Make sure you check him out. He does a fantastic job covering all things Houston Cougars. From basketball, football, he just does a great job. Gave us some time. Last night, I think him and I just even started going on till about 11 o'clock Central Time. So, and he had to get up and go to work the next morning early, but just really appreciate him. So we're going to get that rolling. I'll have the comments going. One of the things I do want to say is that I know last week when we had Bryce Leslie on, I let it roll a little bit more on Twitter, the whole thing. We're going to let it roll for about 10 or so minutes. And then I'm going to ask you guys, I'm going to put the link in The link is going to go into the chat for YouTube. If you all could just switch over at that point. And I'll post it in there a couple times, but if you all could just switch over at that point, it would be much appreciated. So, without further ado, here's that conversation between Parker and myself. Hope you guys enjoy it. All right. We have Parker Ainsworth here with us from Locked On COOGS. Parker, thanks for joining us this evening tonight.
Yeah, happy to be here, man. Big 12 football is getting started. It's kind of it kind of gets you tingly and jittery a little bit, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think we had that big one with Georgia Tech week 1. Folsom was rocking. We were ready to roll, and then we jumped into Delaware, and it kind of cooled off a little bit, and now we're back to a Friday night with quarterback controversy or whatever we want to call it, whatever it is that's going on. So I think now everybody is on high alert right now in Buffs Nation. So
Yeah, I feel like between all the behind the scenes footage that the Sanders family puts out, and then like he always says something fun every week. This week he took a shot at Thamel, right? It's hard to not be constantly involved or have some sort of an emotion tied to what I'm sure.
yeah, it's it's different than being a Colorado fan. It was 10 years ago at this time. I'll tell you that much. And the Buffs were a little less than winning the Pac-12 South, and they're getting way more coverage right now than they were. And even the first year Prime was here, going 4-8. That is you would think they were won a national championship or two at that point. So.
Did quadruple the year before wins though. That's a big deal.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, if whatever that counts for, right? So yeah. Still shocked they won one that year. So yeah, let's jump into us again. For us, for my following, the Falls are Voice of College Football here, Colorado channel. Again, make sure you follow Parker. He's at on X at Painsworth 512 and find his show Locked On COOGS on every major podcast platform. Make sure that it's COOGS, not COUGS. I made the mistake and found myself looking at BYU content. So make sure it's COOGS for anybody following along. But make sure you guys give them a follow, and just to learn a little bit more about our opponent this coming Friday. So Parker, let's jump into this. What I want to do first is just ask you a little bit about your background, where you're from, and essentially, your life story and how you got to where you got here, covering the University of Houston and all sports, not just football.
Yeah, I grew up Houston sport fan. Was born there. Ended up going to high school, a small private school in Austin, actually. But then got out of Texas, went to a Division III liberal arts school, and was going to go play ball and do that whole thing. And very quickly needed to get back to Texas and enjoy the state of Texas wherever I could. Been a Houston sports fan my whole life, and kind of taken that with me all over the place. And then I teach and I coach high school sports as well during the day. And a teacher buddy of mine in like 2019 was like, "Hey, I got an idea for something we need to do." And we started a little amateur podcast where it was teachers grading sports topics. And the thesis we were grading theses, right? So it'd be like, LeBron is better than Jordan, grade it. All it gets an F. Then we'd argue about it for 30 minutes or whatever, right? That was the shtick. Went through that and got involved with Locked On as a Houston fan. Was that October of 22? Like maybe it was September of 22. So coming up on 3 years now. Got connected, got involved, and they wanted to add a Houston show as they were getting into the Big 12. We had some mutual interest there and been with them ever since. But it was really easy because when you like the program already, it kind of helps write the shows themselves. Move to Big 12 has been nice from a content coverage one, which we get a few more football wins, but it's been nice from a content perspective to get into Big 12 and do all that. And yeah, we're 5 days a week at least at Locked On COOGS, so we're here each and every day. Doing all things Houston Cougars, and Locked On to Fun Network to be a part of. And it gets me, a chance to meet folks like yourself and talk Colorado to Houston with people this week. And at some point, I'm sure I'll have to be talking to Oregon State and Houston in a couple weeks, and then talking to folks in Lubbock, with Texas. Like, we just get to kind of expand networks and meet people and talk football on a Wednesday night or whatever. So that's the fun part of this, man.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I love that. So, I know we talked a little bit before the show, but I'm actually coming out of education as well. So, yeah, so we have that in common. So we didn't even get there, but yeah, I'm interested, but we'll talk a little bit after. So, really cool though. Again, thank you for joining us. This means a ton to me. Right, going to be late there. Getting late there in Houston in the Central Time Zone. We're here in the Mountain. We got an hour ahead of us still. So, but yeah, let's start with this. I want to talk about Coach Willie Fritz. Everywhere he goes, that dude is successful. Just a hard, the team takes after him, a hard-nosed approach to it. It starts to rub off on the team, and they start to take his identity. So what has been the big difference that those that you have been covering them have noticed between year one and year two under Coach Fritz there?
So the big thing with Fritz is he preaches, COOGS don't beat COOGS, and recruit, retain, develop, and these very like old school mantras that, full disclosure, there were people in my own comment section back when they hired him that people that were acting like that was not where college football was anymore, right? Like that was the old school way, and this is a whole new game. And what's fascinating is it feels like it's worked. It's working, I should say. Last year, Houston went 4-8, which is the same records they did the year before, but had a much more challenging schedule, and they frankly won a couple games they probably shouldn't have. They beat Kansas State in a way that I think Kansas State's still feeling, frankly, kind of ruined their end of their season last year, and it spiraled into ruining the start of their season this year. They beat Utah, which as a Pac-12 school is always fun, but also they beat Utah kind of when people still thought that Utah might be all right. They beat TCU, who ended up being bowl eligible. Like they've won some games along the way here that I think surprised some folks. And this year they've got a lot of excitement about everything. They bring in a transfer quarterback and kind of Wigman, I'm sure we'll talk about, but they bring in a bunch of offensive linemen to block for them. They bring in a bunch of like scale guys to go get the football for them. They feel like they're building something, and through 2 games, you could argue feels like it's a little ahead of schedule, which is crazy to think about. That's the way college football works now. But he is, that is say, in a new era of college football, he is a 1995 ball coach, man. He is old school. He is old and old school. I guess those will go together a lot, but he's a lot of fun to cover. And he's soft spoken. He's got a megaphone at practice, a little bit of a raspy old man voice, but he's got a lot of, he's crowd surfing in the locker room after they win games. I mean, he's got a lot of energy for a guy in his late 60s.
That's awesome. So he's one, one that I have a ton of respect for. It's just you just see it on the field. Last year, at the end of the year, we Buffs lost against Kansas, lost that game, and the next day, all of us, or was the next week, and whenever it was, we turned into to Houston fans when they were playing BYU to get a crack at the Big 12, to make it into the Big 12 title game. And I was watching them, and I was like, man, this is a tough team. Like, holy cow, their record does not really do them justice for how hard they play, the way they look. It was just a well coached team and a hungry team still that was playing for nothing at the end of the year. And it was, man, that was just awesome to see. I know the score looked one way, but that game wasn't that. The score does not tell the story whatsoever of that game against BYU last year.
Yeah, they won a couple of those. So the defense is the kind of culture card, and he's been a head coach for a long time. But before he was head coach, his defense coordinator Willie Fritz was, and that's, I think, the big thing is defense travels, and defense is what he leads with. It's a different thing. You think of Houston, you think of Case Keenum, Greg Ward. Older folks might go to Andre Ware, Klingler, right? Like the quarterback and the legacy and all that. This is a defensive led team and kind of has been under Fritz. And that's taken adjustment, I think, from our fan base. But it's also, I think, bluntly, kind of an ugly football way to win in a lot of ways too. That kind of really tests if you know what you're watching or appreciate what you're watching or not. So it's been fun. It's been a fun transition for sure.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And an individual that I just, a coach that I absolutely love to watch his team. So I'm gonna jump into to the offense. Let's see. And I guess the first question I have about the offense is, I am somebody who loves college football recruiting. One of my passions. I can almost make the argument that I love that as much as covering Colorado football. Maybe it's a 1A, 1B for me. But Connor Wigman, right? He was seen last year at Texas A&M, struggling, right? We've seen that. And again, that was SEC defense he was playing against. I know watching him last year, I think it was the first game against Notre Dame, second game of the year last year. And I was just like, holy cow, how is this guy a 5-star? So we start watching it, right? And I'm just kind of like, dude, this dude is talented though. There's no reason for this. There's weapons around you at A&M, all these different, what does he look like through the first 2 weeks, for Houston right now?
I'd say cautious. So for the folks that, in Colorado channel that may not have followed his whole trajectory, 5-star, top 3 kid in his class coming out of high school, top 3 overall, not top 3 quarterback, a top 3 overall kid coming out of his class in high school, commits to A&M and was like supposed to be the next savior of Texas A&M football.
Yeah.
Red shirts, then he comes in and gets hurt his redshirt freshman year, misses most of the season after beating up on some patty cake teams, and then comes in his redshirt sophomore year, and actually gets hurt in the Notre Dame game. He had already played bad for over half of football, but he got hurt in that game, and he's like, I can't watch another year of football. I'm going to try and play. And ultimately, in a very Baker Mayfield-y kind of way, I think kind of hurt his own long-term prospects, lost the starting job, got out with the fan base because they were like, well, this guy's supposed to save our program and all that. And he is from Houston, went to Bridgeland High School in the Houston area, and it was a coming home party. Like, he announced in December that he was transferring to Houston, and social media lit up. Everyone that was on the team was like, oh my God. Like, there were some big time names that were debating jumping the transfer portal from Houston that decided not to because they wanted to play with Connor. Guys that played with him 7-on-7 and stuff growing up, a star receiver, Stephon Boogie Johnson, was in the same 6th grade flag football team with them. He was like, I can't wait to play with that guy again. And so people were excited about it. You saw the impact and the transfer portal guys coming in, but he's also a quarterback that has kind of been, through a bunch of coaching changes, and you got to kind of undo a lot. You said you're in education. You got to undo a lot of the stuff from before, right? And so you see some of that. He finally let one rip, a deep ball against Rice in the 3rd quarter. It might have been started the 4th quarter, but he just finally let one rip. And I was like, thank you. That's what we've been waiting on. And that was a big moment, I think, for him mentally. But he's just still like getting back into it. It feels like he hadn't played a lot of ball in the last 3 years because of the injuries and all that. And it takes some time to work back to himself. You go back and watch the Bridgeland tape, though, he looked like a 5-star, like he really did. And so I think it's in there somewhere. Still trying to get it out. You hope you didn't beat it out or break it out with all the injuries. And ultimately, it's good to just have a guy under center the guys are ready to play for. I think they like playing with him is a big deal.
No, absolutely. And I didn't know he got hurt against Notre Dame. I honestly thought, I just know that game was tough to watch. I was watching him, and I was, watching him versus the tape that you've seen in high school where you were like, this dude is like you said, he is a 5-star. This dude is an amazing talent, has a rocket arm. It was just, to me, like, what are we doing? And again, you never know with coaching or whatever it may be. I honestly thought he just got benched a couple weeks later when Marcel Reed. That's honestly what I thought. Is like, this does not look good, right?
And Marcel Reed came in and lit it up too. I should give credit there. Like, when Wigman was not playing well, Marcel Reed came in and did play well, and that's how that went, right? That's the nature of college football now. Now you got to go find a new school, buddy. that's how it goes.
No, and I really do hope he gets it together there at Houston and can, flourish. And like you said, that deep ball, that arm he has, it's pretty. He throws a pretty deep ball. So I'm gonna have to go watch that. As much as I want to tell you that, I've watched Houston this year against Stephen F. Austin and, against Rice. Man, I'm gonna be completely honest. I watched a couple plays, and it was more so on the defensive side where I was like, oh, okay, this guy comes off the tape. This guy looks good. But I've not seen Connor Wigman. So that is just somebody who I have had my eye on since Texas A&M. Just kind of like, when is this talent going to come through? Because he is again, he's a phenomenal talent. So hopefully he does get it figured out there at Houston. And again, I know we're in the Big 12. We play you guys this week, but I'm rooting for the guy. Just, I don't ever want to see any one of these kids fail, regardless, right?
Well, And on the same boat, we'll talk, I'm sure, about Colorado's offense at some point. It's easy to root for a third string quarterback that is now the starter if it's not playing your team, right? So like if y'all are playing basically anyone else, like no, like the third string guy should. This is awesome. Like
Yeah.
I think it's important to not lose sight of that aspect of the storytelling of college football. What we're talking about, it is a fun story. It is a fun story.
No, absolutely. So, yeah, no, thanks for sharing that with about Connor, Connor Wigman, and I'm gonna jump to another Connor. So Dean Connors, you're right. Our transferred in from Rice. He had about, I think it was a little south of 800 yards rushing last year, 11 total TDs. Dean looked good so far and I want to say limited carries. And again, we kind of talked about this a little bit before the show, but Stephen F. Austin and Rice, I was kind of like, okay, how many snaps did they actually play? What does that look like? Because I think he was averaging, what is it, like 6.8, 6.9 yards per carry or somewhere around there, if I'm correct there.
Yeah, and he ended up averaging over 10 against Rice because he had two big ones. Dean's great, and Dean is a grad transfer. Got to come. He went to Rice initially, so got to stay in the city when he transferred across down to Houston. Full disclosure, he kind of came in thinking he was going to be splitting carries with a guy named Rashawn Sanford, and Rashawn Sanford tore his knee in the last week of camp, and so Dean got thrown into that starting spot and is no longer a sharing carries back. He'll get the bulk of the carries this weekend, and for a couple weekends for here on out, I think they got a skinnier guy that catches the ball pretty well named Stacy Snead. He's more of a pass catcher type running back, but Dean is interesting because I think, and this is totally people projecting stuff when they see a guy with a Rice degree looks like Dean Connors. They think he's going to be like Cam Scatterbo, and he's a lot more jittery than that. He's got a lot more wiggle to him, I think, than people realize. And he's pretty fleet of foot. He burst through on a couple split zone plays against Rice for big gains. And I know Rice isn't like Alabama or whatever, but it certainly was impressive to see, and it was good to see people get in the end zone. So I think he had 2 touchdowns against Rice, or there's 2 scores in the year, which is a big deal for us.
Yeah, no, he's one that again I had my eyes on because he's just seems like a right. And I was thinking, oh, he's from Rice, so he has to be tough nosed. In my head, right? You said that. I was like, who is he compared to? Right? I was like, maybe Mike Allstott, and then you said Cam Scatterby. I was like, yeah, Cam Scatterby. You're like, it's nothing like that. So that is one that I was just curious about because right, even in the picture I saw, like, his what is it, his photo shot, whatever it is on ESPN is like, oh, okay, that's Dean Connors. Okay, I know what we're in for, right? Those kind of things, right?
No,
But that's good to hear.
it is totally a profile. Like he wears the same swag, the minimal extra gear and all that. He can shake, he can boogie, and people aren't quite ready for it all the time.
Yeah, man. Okay, well, holy cow. Well, hopefully the Buffs are watching some film on him this week because, yeah. I thought we were coming in this Cam Scatterby territory there. So, good to know. Good to know. Yeah. What I want to, what do you? I guess what can we expect from Dean Connors this weekend on Friday evening?
So I talk a lot about like having a play you can hang your hat on, right, as an offense, and like what do you do when it's like 1st and 10, just kind of need to start a drive and get going positive yards, or 3rd and 4, what do you know is going to get positive, something you can like lean on, and they become kind of a split zone team for X's and O's folks out there. But I'd imagine that means Dean gets another 15 to 20 carries, and I think that there are going to be a lot of stuff where he at least gets the handoff with direction being between the tackles, and then ultimately tries to hit from B gap to hash number sideline and so on, kind of fall out that way. He's going to get a lot of carries, I would imagine. Stacy Snead, I did mention the other running back. He is a like 6th-year college guy, one of the last handful of those we've got from the COVID years, and he is more adept at catching the ball outside the backfield, but in the Slade Nagel offense, you got to run between the tackles to get the ball. So he'll be up there plugging away some too. But I would imagine you get a heavy dose of Dean this week because unlike Rice and Stephen F. Austin, you probably need to play your best guys for most of the snaps. Whereas Rice, Stephen F. Austin, you probably could have gotten away without it, right? So I'd imagine you see a lot of him running just inside the tackle, really either direction for majority of this one.
No, absolutely. Something to keep our eyes on. And again, that's great insight. I'm curious, this would be, geez, this is right as Big 12 members, the first matchup between Colorado and Houston. And I guess it was just since last year. But it for some reason, it feels like over these past couple years that Houston has been a staple in the Big 12. It feels like over for like 5 to 8 years, and that's not the case. I don't know why I feel like that. Maybe it's because I always wanted them to, and then a little bit I liked. Gosh, I loved watching that their basketball team. What is it? I love watching Coach Sampson. One of my favorite coaches ever. And again, I'm not an Oklahoma fan, and now I'm going to go on a basketball rant. But again, it's felt like they've been there forever, because it felt like they were talking about Houston going into the Big 12 while watching a lot of Houston basketball, right? David Mitchell, all those guys. But beside the point, I love that team, by the way. So, yeah, I want to talk about the four-star transfer from Wisconsin, tight end Tanner Kozel. I'm not sure how to say that, but coming in from Wisconsin, I thought this is one that Colorado was going to go after because they needed a tight end. And this dude, I just looked and I was like, this dude is 6'7", 240 pounds. Like, holy cow. Yeah, Colorado, please go get him. He ends up going to Houston. What have you seen so far with him? I know that you said there's a lot of split zone. Are they using him, in that split zone to come across to kick out that end?
And he comes in blocks, and I mean, any defensive coordinator with any worth is going to be able to point out that he can then like fake block and do a rollout kind of thing too. I'm sure. Look, he's the leading pass catcher on the team through 2 games, and he's listed 6'7", 240. If you told me he's 6'8", 250, I'd believe you. He's a giant, and he's a real giant, big catch radius, and not because he's putting up tremendous stats. He is leading Houston in receptions, like I pointed out. The guy's a pro. They just don't make guys like that move like that all that often. He's going to get a shot. He's got 13 catches for 115 yards and a touchdown through 2 games. And that's 2 games where they didn't have to throw the ball a whole lot, right? And so he's target number 1 thus far. He's run a lot of stuff inside of that, 5 to 15 yard area. I've been pushing on my own show to get him more the 10 to 20 yard area. Let's make sure we get across the sticks. But he's generally a check down, he kind of always open kind of option. He had the first touchdown of the season on a motion before the snap where he creates a mismatch because you're not going to put a corner on him when he goes out and runs a route. He had 94 catches a year ago. He's really is a 100 catch threat this year, I think. And you don't want to put a corner on a guy, even if he is that kind of a pass threat, because he is a giant. So it changes up what defenses do. Frankly, I'd be interested to see what Colorado does as a team that, unlike Rice or Stephen F. Austin, probably has athletes that can figure something out, right? Rice, they had no one that could match up with him. Stephen Austin had no one that could match up with him in man coverage. I don't know what there's actually a 6'7" option at Colorado, but I'd imagine there's some sort of a thought like, hey, we can bracket this, we can do that, we'll be fine. Or at least they can coach it like they will be. And it makes me interested to see what they do, because Rice and Stephen Austin can do anything.
No, absolutely. And one, there's, like you said, there's nobody on Colorado that is going to be able to man up with him. I don't think there's, outside of maybe a couple players that can match up with a 6'7", possibly 6'8", 250 pound tight end running
giant.
Down there.
He's really big.
Yeah, I don't know who matches up well with that. My initial thought, and again, Colorado runs a lot of man. You're going to see a lot of cover 1, 4-2-5 look. They run a ton of man. I don't know. Initially I want to think, well, maybe DJ McKinney, right? He's supposed to be one of the first 3 corners taken in the draft. I don't know. He's about 6'2". But again, he's nowhere near that. He's just going to get out physical right there, because this is a gigantic human being. And again, that is athletic as can be. Have they used him in any set just on the goal line, whatever it is, down there in the red zone, just go throw it up, Connor? Tanner's going to just go get it. Like,
hadn't had to throw a fade ball. His touchdown, again, first touchdown of the year, he started in line or kind of, I guess he was off the line of scrimmage, but like toes to heel of the tackle and motioned out towards the receiver area. Well, you see the linebacker pointing like a corner supposed to go motion with him. The corner's like, nuh-uh. and he was actually wide open in the end zone. And so it just was a miscommunication Stephen F. Austin had, because they didn't know what the coverage was supposed to be. They see a 6'8" or 6'7" guy motioning out to outside receiver, and they're like, well, what do we do here? I think Colorado will be more ready for it than that, but He like I said, he had 94 catches and 8 touchdowns a year ago. And he's a pro. They just don't make guys that big that do all those things all that often, and it's really unique. That doesn't mean that he's like gonna, be an impossible mismatch, but just mean like the same way that any pro football player will stick out on the field. He looks different. He looks different.
Yeah, and he's right. All the attributes are there. 6'7" is, like you said, that is regardless of what he does on the. Somebody goes and sees him starts running around at the combine, right? The NFL combine, whatever, and they're like, that dude's. But he does have the production, right? So, I was just curious about that. That was one that I wanted the Buffs to grab this offseason. And luckily we get to play him in week 3 here. So, but yeah, and then, just talking about the offense, who is one guy that we haven't talked about, that I haven't brought up, or even is getting enough attention that, Colorado fans should be on high alert for, or, hey, that's who Parker was talking about. Like, who is that? Who's that one guy?
I don't know which receiver to point this in the direction of, because they haven't had to throw the ball a lot, right? And so part of me wants to say, like, Amari Thomas, the transfer from USF, has honestly had a pretty clear connection with Connor Wigman. They seem to be on the same page. They transferred at the same time. That makes sense. Stephon Boogie Johnson, the leading receiver from a year ago. He caught the Hail Mary that beat West Virginia 2 years ago. He's a Houston guy. He's one of those guys that was really excited to see Connor show up. He's only had one touchdown pass. Only one reception. It was a 70-yard touchdown pass, right? And, does he get loose and get going? I could see a couple of those guys breaking loose. Kobe Young actually does not have a catch on the season this year. A couple of big blocks in the run game. Kobe's a guy that we're super excited about at high school. 4-star kid out of New Orleans, came in last year, took an injury red shirt with an ankle thing that I don't know if he had to sit out the whole year or not, but they certainly made it a full year injury red shirt his freshman year. And this year, everyone's raving about him at practice. The camp film's great. He just hadn't gotten into the action much. Is this the week he breaks out? There will be somebody. I both wish I could tell you who it was, because I know who it was, but I have no idea, and I'm sure that Willie Fritz would rather be like that, right? That people from the outside maybe don't know who the person is. So,
no, absolutely right, absolutely, and I get that completely, because they have not, they've not had to unload the whole playbook yet, right? Like you said. So, part of me thinks, right, in the middle of it, when you were talking, was Colorado has not seen everything yet. It's not on film yet with Houston as well. So, here's where we're at again. Like you said, Coach Fritz probably prefers that at this point, because now Colorado may be guessing a little bit, right? And maybe they're saving, that fade for Tanner. Maybe they're saving that a little bit, right? For once they get in a Big 12 player in a tight spot. But it sounds kind of like we still don't know we know what Houston wants to do, but they didn't. It's been very vanilla these first 2 games.
Very vanilla, and part of that is your opponents, and like I said, not want to show stuff. They also, I've been jokingly calling it like the orange index, but on our lads, which does like depth charts across college football, returners are in blue, transfers and new folks are in orange. Houston's offense got a lot of orange. There's a lot of new names on that roster. 4 offensive linemen, a couple receivers, quarterback, tight end, like all that new. I think is going to take some time to work together too. And again, I know that Colorado's going through the same kind of stuff with their own gelling and figuring out the quarterback even, right? But playing this game in week 3, it's like we haven't tested that yet, so we don't really know what we got. So it'll be a fun one on Friday to figure out those kind of things. I think that's part of the fun of it.
Yeah, no, this is something we've been going through, and Colorado hits the portal hard every single year, and, not that it's the preferred way to do it, but they've had to under Coach Prime, taking over a 1-11 team. We joked before, you said, well, they quadrupled their wins with Coach Prime. And I said, yeah, like, I don't think that's much to brag about going, going from 1 win to 4 wins, but I guess we'll take it. But it is, honestly, though, this is something, and it showed last year at the beginning of the year, they opened against North Dakota State, and again, they're no cupcake. This is a powerhouse, and they're, what is it, Division II, whatever they call it now. one of the powerhouses, right? One of the juggernauts there. And they almost went into Boulder, which we were at, and almost beat Colorado at Folsom week 1. Colorado was new everywhere. And again, this is kind of the same thing this year. It's a lot of trying to figure some things out. We don't know what works. We don't know who's at quarterback now at this point. Even the running back position is not solidified. They're playing, they're missing one of their main contributors in Dallin Hayden, who sounds like is not going to go, as well as Amarian Miller. So just throwing that out there as well. But it does. There's still so many positions, right? They're subbing in a right guard at some points, right? It's Zy Chrysler or Harden. They're subbing them in and out like mid-drive at sometimes. So Colorado is still figuring this out. This is the dance they have been doing every year for these first couple games. First 4 games or so since in the prime era right now. So that's just kind of where we're at, and it creates for some sloppy looking football these first couple weeks as well. So,
and there's no preseason games, so like this is really it just starts live. Y'all find out like Georgia Tech as well as anyone, right? The NFL has got warm-ups. There's no warm-ups here, man.
Yep. Nope, none at all. But what I want to do is I'm going to turn it over to you, Parker. And, if you have some questions about the Colorado offense that I can answer to the best of my ability, I will try my best.
I got one
right
big
now.
question that I think everyone's got, Manny. Who plays quarterback for this team on Friday?
Ryan Staub. I would be completely shocked if he is not the starter. He was seen in practice, right? Those well-off videos that you were talking about with Deion Sanders Jr., he is the one that's taking the reps right now. He is going to start.
So why won't they just say it?
You know what Deion's doing right now, right? It's the game and shit, the game within the game there. He's just like, we're gonna be old school, and it is cool with him and Coach Fritz, with Prime and Coach Fritz. They're old school, right? They're old school, and again, part of it is, with Deion, you see all the flash, all the bling, music video, all these videos, all this stuff that goes on. But we had a guy on here, Dukes of Scoops, who's pretty close within the program, pretty close to Coach Prime. Deion Sanders Jr. Whatever it may be. But one of the questions I asked him is what are one of the things that we don't know about Coach Prime and what that program looks like? And he said discipline. He goes, it's that simple. They are so disciplined. If you were there on time, you're late. And he was just sharing, all these different types of things. But, that is true, that this is just one of those old school games that they're playing right now. And again, this doesn't shock me with Coach Prime. He's not going to tell you. He wouldn't even tell us who was going to start week 1. I think it was the week of. I think I had his name's Jack Carlo. He covers the bus for Sports Illustrated. He was on with us the first week, and I said, who do you think is going to start? And he goes, well, I think it's going to be Caden, but Coach Prime still hasn't said yet. So against Georgia Tech. So this is kind of what he does.
Fascinating. So I got to go to Big 12 Media Day because it was in Texas, and that was fun. But they took 2 quarterbacks Big 12 Media Day, and I frankly remember kind of being like, you're taking 2 guys. That's weird. And now they're not going to start either one of them. It just, I would say, props to Deion Sanders. I've been saying this whenever anyone listens to me all week. Like, most coaches in college football today would just say, we're paying Caden Salter to be the starter. He's the starter. And Deion said, we're going to play who I think is best, which is certainly admirable. It's different than other people are doing it. It's just interesting that, we're going with the guy that's been the back, Shador, I think of him as Shador's backup, right? But it makes you prepare for a lot because he does different stuff, obviously. They all do different stuff.
Yeah, which is they were supposed to do different things. And, I went on a post-game rant about Pat Shurmur after the game. So again, I'm like almost debating if I should delete that video or not. I was so upset after the Delaware game, but neither here nor there. But yeah, this is really what it is. Ryan Staub, there was a point though, during the game when they put him in. So I guess Parker, I didn't say this, but we are season ticket holders to Colorado. So we go to every single home game. The plan is to go to one away game. We want to go to TCU, but what he said though, I don't think it was a Big 12. It was during one of the summer, spring, whatever we want to summer, or what do they call it? Summer or fall camp, whatever you want to call it, during the summertime, right? Your camp leading into the season. And he said, somebody asked him about it, and he says, well, don't forget about Staub, right? And he goes, Staub's in there too. When asked about Salter and Julian Lewis. And that, when Staub went into the game the other day, I was thinking to myself, he was not lying there. This is something that he said during a press conference, like, hey, Staub's in there as well. And again,
Right.
he was saying this back then, and now we're here, and it's I keep reflecting on it. It's like, why didn't I pay more attention to that? Because at the time I was like, he's just, he's just talking, he's just doing this,
Yeah.
trying to catch people off guard, all these things, right? So it was,
It totally sounds like a thing a coach just says, right? That's part of the deal there, but
yeah,
crazy. Yeah.
it's because there was Staub and there was another Ponder is the other quarterback that was there. They were talking more about Ponder before they were talking about Staub at camp. So it is like I am I know it is like, this has caught all of us by surprise. He went in there and here we are, he takes 2 scoring drives, throws a bomb up there to Sincere Brown, and now it is just like mind blowing where we're at right now with this quarterback position. But I do think we may see Caden Salter again. I don't. Caden Salter right now is struggling. And I know his stats don't look horrible by any means, right? You look at him, you're like, oh, he's playing all right, he's doing okay. The stats don't tell the story here. There is I guess I'm a football nerd dork, whatever we want to call it. I like to watch the all 22 of the Colorado games. There are a lot of big plays left on the field there, throwing it and running it. There's just a lot of plays left on the field right now with Caden Salter. Again, I do hope he figures it out. Again, I don't care who the starter is as long as Colorado wins. I don't have, when you have a quarterback controversy, people like to, oh, well, this guy, and then, they pull the other guy down to prop the other guy up. I will never do that, but I do think right now Caden Salter should be the odd man out, and you just continue developing Julian the way you do. With that being said, though, I would not put him in the ball game on this coming Friday. 17-year-old kid who I think it's like 2 weeks from now he turns 18. Enrolled early there. I just wouldn't put him in on the road at Houston.
But do you think there's, and this is the Houston, and I've been DMing and asking and texting people trying to figure this out. Salter will probably still play some Friday. You'd imagine he's too good an athlete to me to keep completely off the field. You're not developing him. He's in his last year of his. I'd imagine he's like a wildcat package or something.
I think he's going to play. Would I do it? No, I'm not the coach, so I don't get paid all that money to do all this, right? But he is, something that's supposed to be his bread and butter is, the option read, right? Just that's not going right now. There was a play against Delaware where the edge just comes crashing down, right? His read man crashing down, and he keeps it. Or sorry, he stays home, my fault. And then comes crashing down, and they lose 3-4 yards there. It is I think he's thinking too much. I think he's kind of he's going away from, now he thinks he has to be a passer versus Caden Salter at Liberty, who was your G5 player of the year. One of the, that rare accomplishment of what was it, rushing over 1,000 yards and passing for over 3,000.
Yeah.
It's mind boggling right now.
Well, and what's fascinating there too is like, it'd be one thing if it were the Georgia Tech game or you're playing Arizona State or something, and you're talking about like the change in competition. That was against Delaware, like you're saying. So I think it's fascinating to watch unfold. And frankly, like I said at the top, right, like in a purist storylines college football kind of way, it's kind of awesome that Ryan Staub is getting the job, right? Like there's a lot of really cool stuff about it. I don't mean to detract from that or make his story less than. It's just, as someone trying to figure out what Houston's going up against this Friday, it's just weird.
Yeah, and it is. I wrote a really cool piece today on Ryan Staub on a website that I have. It's called S2SBuffs.com. So, anybody want to check it out, please do. About who is Ryan Staub, right? This is a kid from West Ranch High School. He took over junior year, had, I think it was 2,400 yards, 21 touchdown passes, 10 INTs, which, it's okay. And, in California, it is a if you ever watch California football is the way the divisions are set up is crazy. So you'll have a CIF Southern California, and it goes from 8-man all the way up to Division 14, with Division 1 being the highest level. They were at Division 4 his junior year. They made the playoffs because this was the 21-22 season. The 2021 season, his sophomore year, they went 1-4 again. That was that season cut short because of COVID. So they just played conference games. They went 1-4. Next year, Staub takes over. They go 8-3, losing the first round of the playoffs. The next year, they bump them up. And I know this sounds crazy. They bump them up a level to Division 3. They go there. They go 11-1, undefeated all through the regular season. Staub throws for over 3,000 yards, has 37 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. I believe it was like a 127 quarterback rating for the year. Just had a completely dominant year, right, in Southern California football, which is, we look at Texas, Georgia, Florida, and California, and specifically Southern California, and it is in that area right there in Southern California. And he had a phenomenal senior year. He had offers, I believe it. Let me make sure I can get this: Fresno State, Arizona, had a visit to Texas, but never was offered by Texas, Colorado, and I think it was USF, I think was the other one. Chose Colorado in 2022 when Prime came, and he decided to stay, but he was recruited by Carl Durrell's staff to go. Prime was like, we're going to keep the scholarship there. We like this young man. And he has been there. Shador shows up, right? And he sits behind Shador these last 2 years to learn. And, people, after the fact, right? I didn't know he was doing this, but now they showed a bunch of clips of him behind Shador, taking notes, listening to everything Shador said, right? Like learning underneath him what the younger quarterback's supposed to do. But he just is they won their first playoff game though, and they lost to the eventual runner-up for Division 3 that year in the playoffs. But he had a phenomenal senior year though, and his phenomenal career there at West Ranch High School there in Southern California.
Well, and that, adds context and helps paint the picture a little bit, because the guy's clearly played and been successful somewhere. When you watch some of those throws he's making, but if you had this in the back pocket, going out and getting Caden Salter, I guess just because you can, is one way to go about it. But I feel like Houston's defense is going to be a calling card all year for them, and so I think that's probably why I lean into what Colorado's doing so much over there. Like I like Houston's defensive line. I like their defensive backs, the linebackers. They haven't played a Colorado-esque opponent yet, but the linebackers have been good the first couple games in a way that I wasn't sure what we had there, and I feel better about it now. I'm intrigued by what happens on that side of the ball, though, Manning.
Yeah, I don't know what to expect. They, and again, this is probably a question you were going to ask. What is Colorado's identity? I don't know. With Shador, it was just we're gonna chuck it. We're gonna let Shador be Shador, right? The mean thing, chuck it up. Travis is down there somewhere, right? But it wasn't to that extreme. But it was, Colorado had three receivers right now that are playing in the NFL made 3 NFL teams. So this is different. There's no Shador back there, and again, here's where we're at. There's no identity though. There is no identity. They say they want to run the football. They were averaging Michael Welch, who was the starter, the one that I thought was going to be the bell cow this year. He was averaging 6.8 yards per carry against Georgia Tech, and they went away from it. Again, it has been mind-boggling. I don't know. There's no rhyme or reason to the offense. We started to see that against Delaware when Staub came in. Now we were kind of like, oh, here we go. But again, there's also that at the mid-third quarter to the middle of the fourth quarter against Georgia Tech. And then something happened again. So there's no identity here. We don't know what Colorado wants to do right now on the offensive side.
So I feel like that plays into Houston's defense's hands too, though. And I mentioned on the first episode I did this week, I think, I'm really excited to play this game in week 3 because I think Colorado could be really good by week 9. I think that this is a good thing for Houston to catch them early. And, spoiler, I'm going to say the same thing when Houston plays Texas Tech in week 5, right? Getting some of these teams with talent early in the season that they're figuring things out is hopefully going to be be to their benefit. But um, I'm excited about Friday. I think that being the I said again things I said on my own show, the first American Big 12 game of the year, because the first game happened in Ireland. It's quite a way to kick it off.
Mhm.
It's a fun, gonna be a fun Friday night of football. Not quite Friday Night Lights, right? Folks, Colorado, you know, Houston's not quite the Permian Basin, but it is gonna be a fun time.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for it. And that is my favorite matchup is Colorado's offense versus Houston's defense. And again, I think it's everybody's. It's going to be, the whomever it is calling the game, on national TV. That's going to be the exciting part. This is the part of game that everybody's tuning in to watch what Staub does or who the next guy is, right? Say Staub struggles, who comes in next. So that is a storyline to this game, and that is the most exciting part. My wife is going to really appreciate you dropping the Permian Basin there. So just so you know, I'm just letting you know, and the Friday Night Lights reference. So I'm not even going to tell her that this was dropped in there. She's going to watch it and be like, oh, okay. So yeah. So she's from there. So those of you tuning in, but yeah, she's going to really, Parker, I think you're on her good side now. So
Yay. Happy wife, happy life, man. That's the way
yeah,
to
for sure, for sure. So now let's jump onto the defensive side of the ball for Houston. And again, the two that I saw, I said I watched a couple plays here and there. The two that jumped off the tape to me, jumped off the film was Brandon Mack and Eddie Walls. These two looked, man, they looked good. They disruptive. And who else do we need to look at though, other than these two, that makes it that Colorado needs to be concerned of, or that can be a game wrecker or impact this Colorado offense that's on Houston's defense?
Yeah, Eddie Walls is awesome. He's a FIU transfer, actually.
Okay.
And he kind of came in as a pass rush specialist. That was certainly his rap at FIU. And they played Rice last week, and I'm sure no one in Colorado knows, because why would you? But Rice has transitioned to running a true, like they call it the gun choice, but it's like a triple option from the gun kind of offense.
Okay.
And I tried to say on my show, actually, in Texas, man, a gun choice that we got to pick a different name. So
Yeah, I mean,
it's
we
gonna
go,
be
we go, yeah, we go to Lubbock, and then everybody's sitting there telling me
yeah.
guns up, and I'm like, no, no
we got
guns,
we got to
no
pick a different
guns,
name.
yeah,
Yeah, I got to pick a different
yeah,
name. But so that's the case with Rice, and so it's like, okay, well, what's Eddie going to do this game? They're not going to pass the ball, right? And he played really well. He and Brandon mentioned both played really well in that game. Brandon Mack is a SEC-sized guy. He went to Ole Miss initially. I would want to get on the field there. I was getting hurt a little bit, but also just wasn't seeing the reps he wanted. But he certainly looks the part. He plays more of the hybrid linebacker / defensive end role. Eddie Walls is more of a traditional hand to the dirt defensive end. As far as other names to know, I think you got to talk about LaTrevion McCutcheon. I don't know what position he plays at the NFL level. He's let me make sure I got the height, weight right here. But LaTrevion is, I want to say, a linebacker, but I could also see someone telling me that he's more like defensive end that's a little undersized. He's closer to 240. He's about 6'2". He just we call him the hybrid spot. He just plays in the box, and he's just gonna be in the box, and he's gonna mess some stuff up, and he's gonna rush the passer. He made one tackle in the SFA game that knocked the dude's helmet off. I mean, he's just a ball player, and he's a lot of fun to watch. He's kind of grown into his own too. He's a redshirt freshman last year. That's kind of learning college football and all that, and his brother is a corner. Plays for Houston as well. Latrell McCutcheon. Latrevion is the in the box guy. Latrell is the corner, and Latrell's a captain, and Latrell is much more of the senior leader type. But Latrell was playing with Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma and then USC, but transferred to Houston to play with his brother. They're both from Austin, actually, but to play closer to home and with his family is a big deal. And I really like both those guys on the field a lot. Latrell is a really good corner, much more traditionally fit for his position. Latrevion, this game, I could see him being much more of a traditional pass rusher if Staub's in the game. I think it's interesting what they do with him if Caden Salter's in the game, because Salter is a run, like, you could just run away from Latrevion and probably negate his impact. So how do you kind of figure that X's and O's deal out is probably the more interesting thing. But he'll make some play that I'm like, whoa. So I'm excited about that one.
Oh yeah, no, that sounds that's someone to keep, and that's one that you I didn't even know about, right? I was just sitting here looking at these two, like, okay, who are the two on the defensive line, or within the box, right? To play within the box, right? Your edge linebacker, D lineman that is going to wreck the game for Colorado, right? That is what I see. That is what we've come accustomed to with Colorado's lack of an offensive line. Again, that has not been the case this year. Colorado has a massive offensive line, but they're still figuring that out as well. Like we just talked about, it is
PFF says they got a pro. I might be under a young guy though, but PFF stuff acts like they have a pro somewhere in the office. I mean,
yeah,
that helps a lot.
IMG guy from IMG Academy, Jordan Seaton, left tackle. He was the number one tackle coming out. I think it was on one of those ESPN shows.
Mm-hmm.
He committed live to Colorado, and everybody was just shocked because he wasn't right, according to like Rivals, On 3, 24/7. Wasn't even Colorado wasn't even in the top 3, and he comes to Colorado, and he does one of the things that in Colorado fan says, he goes, if you're a dog, then come to Colorado. And that's just kind of how he does his recruiting pitch. He's like, okay, well, we're going to roll with it. But Jordan Seaton, number 77, this dude is going to be one of the, a top 3 tackle, probably, you're probably looking at, he's a true sophomore. He still has one more year after this, puts up phenomenal numbers by PFF. He is one of the best tackles in the country. I want to say Big 12, but, we have our friend over there at Utah right now that is just a complete monster, right? But I am very I'm pretty sure that he would be a first round pick this year, and then after next year you're probably looking at a top 10 pick. But he is man, that dude is a phenomenal left tackle. So I'm sure that's who they are talking about though. So
and without knowing a lot of the backstory or who it was, I was just like, oh, doing my research, like, oh, they've got someone who can hold him, so we'll see how that transitions. Houston's defense against the Colorado offense is going to be interesting because the changing of the quarterback changes everyone's job, right? And you can outline, your audience probably understands better what that looks like with Salter in versus looks like with Staub in or Juju or whoever, right? I think that if it's Staub, you probably are going to see the more traditional, defense coordinator, Austin Armstrong. He was at Florida before Houston, Southern Miss before that. He's really young, but has kind of been a climber. He was a GA at Georgia, and he worked with Alabama for an offseason and whatever. The defense is like weirdly complex in a way that I don't think people think of, like in a way that people think of like Stanford or Rice or Northwestern running a complex defense with like a lot of if this then that, if that then this, and a lot of caveats and differences and coverage mix-ups and stuff, and half this, half that. The guys have not played a Colorado or a Big 12 team, but have certainly taken to it in a way that it has felt good. It took 111 minutes of football for them to give up a touchdown, and it was against Rice. And you wanted to pitch another shutout, you couldn't quite get that part done. But I feel good about what they're doing on that side of the ball. I wish. And it sounds like Staub's the guy. I wish they had a more definitive answer there because they are such different offenses to prepare for, though, Manny.
Yep, and that was the hope going into the season was Julian Lewis is going to come in and you're going to call the Shador offense. Caden Salter comes in and here we go. We have a whole different package. One of the things I've said is, why don't you guys just use what Georgia Tech did to you guys and just let Caden Salter run that offense? That is like, seriously, just run every single play they did, right? That is like my oddest belief there, right? Because that's what they did. Haynes King carved the Colorado defense up. And again, quite frankly, that's what they should have been doing. Don't even look at running, any read options. Run quarterback power to the right here, right? Between your B or C gap, pick one, right? Let's run that, get right through there, whatever hole's open. Caden get it and just shoot right through there. But it has been trying, and again, one of the things that Colorado does is there's a lot of, as you can tell in Colorado, especially, in the Denver area, there is a ton of Bronco fans. any one of them that you want to ask them about Pat Shermer, they absolutely hate the guy. So he is back in the state of Colorado. This is his second year there. And again, I'm not a Bronco fan. I just don't tell the fans who my NFL team is because I'm trying to gain an audience, not lose one here. So I don't mention that much, Parker. So please don't ask. But one of the things they do is they run a lot of horizontal screens that are drive killers. Quite frankly, they're not running them correctly. They're going to run one. So I think it was one of the first drive, maybe it might have even been the first or second play. Colorado ran a wide receiver tunnel, right? They threw it, and I was like, that's picked. That's picked. I do not know what happened. Somebody said it was designed. It was not designed. That would be a terrible design play. It looked like the Delaware corner was just shooting it because he's like, here it comes. The receiver, I think, that was supposed to catch it, blocked him. The receiver that was supposed to, be coming down to set the tunnel up, caught it and took off down the field. And I'm like, okay, so if Delaware knows we're doing this, and again, it is no knock at Delaware. It is just a matter of time, though, before one of those is pick six. And again, hopefully they have scrapped that and just said, hey, no more horizontal plays. We're just going to just go forward, man. Like, that is all we're asking. So, and again, the play calling also has not helped out Caden Salter. And again, on those big plays that Sincere Brown caught from Ryan Staubs switched the play and said, okay, you're in man, go. It was not like a audible, check in and out. It was looked at him and, it was like when he's in man-to-man, because Sincere Brown, transfer from Campbell, 6'5", runs 4.3, 4.4. Just completely fast. I think he set the, over the first 2 weeks, or I guess 3 weeks with Weeks or whatever you want to call it, he is the fastest recorded time. I think it was like 20 point something miles per hour on that one he caught against Delaware for 71 yards. Dude is just like a freak, right? Off the chart measurables. And Ryan Staub audibled and was like, go. If you're in man, go. And I'm just going to throw it up and you're going to run underneath it. So it does kind of, I'm glad that Staub's able to do that. But at the same time, it's like, that shouldn't be, this should be in the game plan, right? In my opinion.
Right.
So it's a lot going on there with Colorado. I hope they figure it out on offense. But again, like you said, I think you guys are catching them at the right time right now.
It certainly feels, and it feels, like I said, better to catch them now than later. Because like even if it's Juju, they've got young talent, and they just got all these guys on campus. Are you a score predictions guy, Manny? You've been predicting scores all week.
Yeah, that was my next question. So I'm going to be a homer though. So, but I'm going to let you go first, Park. You go first. First because I want it.
I'm also a homer, and I will point out that we are a FanDuel network, so we've been talking about the line has moved this week on FanDuel anyway, and I think as of when we're recording this, it's closer to 4.5. But that, I don't know if that sways anyone's pick or anything, but it's interesting that it opened up at 3.5, then went to 5.5, now it's 4.5, it's back and forth. I'm a 24-21 Houston guy. I think they make a stop in the fourth quarter. That whoever the quarterback is, Staub, or somebody's driving a little bit, and then maybe not a turnover, maybe it was a turnover on down. Someone pointed out to me, Parker, if it were 24-20, then they need a touchdown. You have more space to do that. That's probably fair. But something where like you get a turnover and down, something like that, and get the ball back and just kind of run out the clock from there. Fully disclose, I think that home field advantage in terms of both attendance and the heat. I think the heat will play a role in this game. It's projecting in the mid-90s and humid. In the same way that I would imagine the mountain and the thin air, and that if the inverse were happening, right, would play a role for Colorado. I think that getting to practice in that every day and be ready for that should help Houston out a little bit. So I'm leaning Houston in a close game, a low-scoring game, getting in the low 20s, but that's where I've been all week right now. I'm sure that you're taking Colorado. I really want to know where you think the score is going to be.
Okay, so we here at the Voice of College Football Network, I will just say this. This should be coming to my viewers at the end of the week or early next week. We are going to start talking about FanDuel, those kind of things as well. So just had a big meeting on it this past Monday. So, but again, no, we're not there yet. So this is not promoting any of it, just so you all know.
I was speaking purely from my own content. That was not.
Yeah. No, you're perfect. You are perfectly fine. So now with that being said, with us being pretty similar, right? I looked at the line; it was 5.5 this evening because it is jumping everywhere. So I see right the over unders 44.5. So Parker, I am not copying you, man. I promise you. I have a Colorado 24-21 win, so I'm going to take the right at the line, the over under. And last drive, whether it's Colorado going down the field for a game-winning field goal or stopping Houston's offense. So that is the same prediction. And then, as you were talking, I kind of was smiling across my face, like, well, maybe I should have went first. And that sounds like I'm copying you, but that is Parker. That is where I'm at with it. I got a Colorado 24-21 win. I do think they Staub does enough to win. I do think the running game gets going, and I think they commit to it this Friday night. I do think that's where they're going to lean on, and you're going to probably see a ton of play action, those kind of things. And for God's sake, I hope we don't see a lot of horizontal passes. But I think Colorado, you're going to see them come out and start fast. They have the team loves Ryan Staub, right? In the locker room after every, I thought it was like, oh man, this team is going to be torn apart, right? All these different things. And it was like the complete opposite, where everybody was just cheering Ryan Staub on, like happy as can be for him. Like that was their brother or something, right? They were pumped. So I am, that's where I'm going to go. I think this is kind of, and I think Colorado starts to figure some things out this weekend. And I think it started to click a little bit again, Delaware. And I think I think it's going to roll over to this weekend.
I think it'll be a fun start to the Big 12 season for sure. And it is interesting, the stakes of this one when you think about like big picture and setting up your season and all that. It certainly, I think, is a heavier game than people might realize a week 3 game typically is. And so it'll be exciting. Friday night, Houston, a little bit later kickoff because it's Friday night too, right? And so that's fun.
It's still 6:30 Central Time, 5:30
Mountain
our
time,
time.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
and the reason I say that, Parker, is I was so lost I thought you were talking in Mountain Time when we were supposed to do this. So I was like, okay, let me get this right. 5:30 5:30. Hopefully everybody's home able to watch it. But that is, here it's a pretty early kickoff, that 5:30 for us here, just because no one's home from here in the Denver area, right? Because Boulder is 30 minutes, 30, 45 minutes with traffic from Denver, if that. So hopefully everybody's home and not fighting the traffic at that point.
I mean, that's a common Houston critique when they show the stadium in the pregame is like it's empty. It's like, yeah, because traffic on the loop is not great. Right?
Yeah,
Like that's the way that goes sometimes. But anyway.
yeah. And the loop thing, when I before I met my wife Parker again, I was like, what is a loop? I have no idea what you're talking about. So it's my first time to Texas. So that is one of the coolest things ever, though. So anyway, that is I love the loop. So it's like in every city. I like absolutely love the loop. It is made at first I was like, this is dumb. And then now I was like, man, the loop is fantastic. Like they have the turnarounds and everything when you get off the wrong exit. So I'm a big fan of the loop, just to let you know.
from city planning perspective. Yeah. Welcome to Texas. Welcome to Texas.
Yeah. So Parker, I do appreciate you, man. And we went over a little bit than I anticipated, but just really enjoyed talking with you, talking this game. I'm sure we'll go back and forth here in a little bit, over the weekend, talk a little bit about the game, regardless of the outcome. But man, I'm really excited for this game. This is gonna be fun. This is gonna be fun Friday, and I'm just really thankful that you were able to take some time out of your busy day. I know it's almost gonna be 11 there in Houston, but thank you. I don't. And again, make sure we follow Parker Ainsworth. So it's at Painsworth 512 on X. Tune into Locked On COOGS, and again on every major podcast platform. Just really appreciate you, Parker.
Yeah, man, it's football season. This is the fun part. We can talk about games. It's not July can get dry. June now we got football games. Let's talk football games. That's fun.
This is fun. This is awesome. But again, thank you again, and those of us watching, we'll wrap up after this, and we'll talk a little bit, with the rest of the crew here. But again, thank you, Parker.
Thanks for having me on, Manny.
All right, that was our conversation with Parker Ainsworth there of Locked On Cougs. Just a fantastic interview. Was really, really excited to have him on. Some of these things, I get going sometimes and don't know when to stop. Um, but man, that was fun. Those are one of the best parts of this job is being able to just meet people from different parts of the country. Last week we had our friend Bryce on that was from Delaware in Eastern time zone. We have a new friend of ours here, Parker Ainsworth of Locked On Cougs, right there in Texas. But yeah, that was just a lot of fun, and we talked a ton about all the different, I don't want to call it scenarios, but just all the different things that come up with this game. And again, it is never there's never a dull moment, right? As we know as Colorado fans with Prime, this whole every single year there's something to talk about, which is great, right? Like great for me, I should say. Right now covering the team, it is never have a loss of words, right? I don't think I do anyway, but this just feels that fire. And then when we do interviews, they're supposed to be about, I don't want there is no time limit, but they should be between 30 to 45 minutes is what I typically like, and we are over that by about 20 minutes, half hour to 20 minutes. But it is just fantastic stuff. I can't wait for the game on Friday. Can't wait for the Buffs to. I don't know when they're heading out. I would assume either tomorrow or Friday. But man, this is going to be this is a big game. This is a big game. Has that big game feel to it? We're back in Big 12 mode, and I think our Demistocles G said if if Staub or Salter goes off, in which I think they will, see you by two TDs. And that's the thing, though. They have the talent to be able to do that. Like this is not some being biased or a homer. They do have that talent. Now, the problem with it is, are they going to call the plays correctly? Are they going to put the play? And again, offensively, right? Is that what is the formula? What is it that you all are trying to do? It has seemed like now every year, right? We knew for the first 2 years we're going to throw it. We're going to throw that thing, right? Maybe the first year they tried to run it. I know mid-year last year against Cincinnati, they were really trying to get the run game going. Couldn't. That never got going. Every year they talk about getting the run game going. We're going to get the run game going. I'm ready for the run game to get going. I've been ready for it. The opportunities have presented themselves, and again, they get impatient with the run game. And again, you cannot get impatient with the running game. It is right. It's the death by 1,000 cuts kind of thing, because you keep going, boom, you pop one, right? You pop a big run off. The Buffs have the offensive line, they have the horses, they have everything you need to be successful in the run game. Even with Caden Salter, right? Like again, like I said, I think as of right now, he should be the odd man out. Is he going to? No, he's gonna get some snaps on Friday. How many? I don't know. I do still think we see Staub about 90-95% of the time. Again, I don't think we see Julian, but they have Caden Salter there. Don't even give him the read option. Design some power runs there. I'm all for that. Let's just let that athleticism show. Just man, they got to get that run game going. They get that going, everything else opens up, right? The whole playbook is now open. And again, those horizontal passes, what did our what did our friend say? I think Demystically said he's gonna he's gonna pull my hair out, right? The rest, or what little I have left, I can actually grow it out, just so you know. But I choose to wear it this way, so just so you know, maybe it's not as down as it used to be. But it's just, I don't like to do the whole grooming, combing hair, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'm right there with you. I may beat you to it and pull it out myself at that point, but I'm done with the horizontal plays. Again, I know Bronco fans, they couldn't stand Pat Shurmur. Now they have even more of a reason. Again, let's see what happens this Friday. But again, that horizontal play, they need to stop. It's just a matter of time before one of those turn into a pick six and swings the whole momentum of a game. Please do not run that on the first drive of the game, by any means. Like, you do not want that crowd shifting. And again, every time every game we play, Colorado gets the A game. The crowd's pumped. They're going to get their best shot. So regardless, right, if that's because they hate Coach Prime, we draw a crowd, whatever it may be, don't run that play. It's just a momentum killer. It's a drive killer. So, right, the most I think yards it's gotten this year was like 6 or 7 yards at one point. It's not worth it at that point. At that point, I would just hand the ball off on first down, be predictable like that, because at least you're not losing 3 or 4 yards on it. So, we'll see. We'll see what they do now. We had a question here: who owns the run game as far in this matchup? Should be Colorado. It should be, right. The offensive line is massive. You had, right, Michael Welch 6.8 yards per carry the first game, and then it was DeKalen and Simeon Price had over 6 yards a pop the second game, but they do not run it enough. Like, I get you have 3 running backs, right? And it's going to be even more of a problem once Dallin comes back. Pick 2 backs and let them, whoever's having the better play, better game at that point. Roll with them the rest of the way. It is not that big of a deal. But I really do think they have to get the run game going. Makes Ryan Staub's job easier. It makes everybody's job easier. Offensive line would prefer to they would absolutely prefer to run block versus pass block, right? Because then, run block, you're moving forward, you're going to him. It's not coming to you at that point. So get the run game going. And then the air game, I mean, right now it's from what we've seen, it's Houston, right? And again, there's not a lot there, but Connor Wigman, Connor Wigman can play. Like, he's one that I was high on coming out. He could shred the defense this weekend as well. So they have to make Houston one-dimensional. Either way, pick one, stop it, make them do something they don't want to do. That's a tough one, but who should it be? It should be Colorado. Colorado, and again, you guys have heard me say the weapons they have on the outside, regardless of Amari and Miller not playing this weekend. They still have some dudes out there, right? You have Quentin Gibson that's still there. Joseph Williams still there. Draylon Miller is still there, right? And then we have our big game last week from Sincere Brown. There are players there, and I'm sure I'm missing somebody. I am missing somebody. I can't think of who it is right now, but I'm missing one of them. Like, it should not be a question right now. Colorado they should have, again, at Delaware, I get that they covered whatever right on the scoreline at 20, 23 and a half, whatever it was. But at the same time, they should have 20-0 at halftime, somewhere around there, and then called it off, whatever it may be. But this is not that the pass game does not feel good. And this is kind of one of those things that, I hate to go in panic mode so early and all these kind of things. But this 2 weeks ago before the Georgia Tech game kicked off, everybody had this, I don't want to say penciled. Everyone had this written with black permanent marker as a dub. And here we are going into it like, oh man, like, hopefully they can get the quarterback figured out. Hopefully they can do this in an away game, right? And it should have all been figured out, but here we are, and again, I hope, for the sake of I hope it's Staub. I hope Staub lights it up. I really do not care which one it is at this point. I just want Colorado to win. So we'll see what that looks like. But it should be run game belongs to the Buffs. Air game right now is Houston, and I almost keep saying Texas A&M for some reason. I have a dream Staub's going to make the OC look like a genius. So he's going to have the Shador effect in that sense, is what it seems like. How good is Houston's secondary? So I don't know. So there was a player they said they got from USC, is what Parker was saying, from Southern Cal. What did he say? The 2 brothers, I had it written down in my notes. But he is good. But again, we don't know how good Houston is. They've played, what was it, Stephen F. Austin and Rice. They played both at home, obviously, right? So we don't know. We do not know how good they are, but I will say they're coached extremely well, right? Willie Fritz, man, that dude can coach. So again, they are not going to show up and not be prepared, right? I do know that. I can say that, but the secondary, it's hard to evaluate a team when they have been, they haven't played the competition that they've um that has been similar to Georgia Tech, right? Which Georgia Tech, CU, that should have been a blowout again, but at least they were hanging in there. They played a big school, right? One that now has a Heisman candidate, one that I think, did they crack the top 25 this past week? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they cracked it in either poll or not. But I mean, in my opinion, they should be. Georgia Tech is gonna they're gonna have a good season this year. Big win the are they gonna win the ACC? I don't know. Right, Clemson's still there, Florida State's there. I don't know, but it is just hard to really determine if they are good or not. They did lose a lot there, but again, they got a transfer in from USC. I know they do have 3 players with an interception, but again, I don't know. Yeah, let's not forget the Vickers and Cam will be. Yeah, Cam Michael, holy cow, right? That is man, that dude just needs to get on the field. Like earlier in the show, I'm not sure if you caught the beginning, but it was Cam Michael was doing some work with backpedaling, making break, doing those kind of things with the DBs. So I'm excited to see that dude just needs to touch the field. Let him return punts, let him return kicks. I do not care, but Cam Michael needs to touch the field, and I do think he should be returning punts, or that dude he just needs to be out there. He's too good of an athlete. He's special player. I want to say, where was he when he came out in his class? He's like a top 3 or top 4 athlete is what he was designated as. But again, that's huge in the whole class, not in a certain set. This is in the whole class. So if I remember correctly, it was top 3 or top 4. I know for sure it was a top 5. And then, yeah, Houston has been getting ready for a dual threat QB, not a pro style, right? And they don't even know what they're going to see with Ryan Staub. And let's say, again, I don't know, but I don't think they're going to play Julian, right, from the sounds of it. But what if they haven't even prepared for Julian Lewis, right? We don't even know what Julian Lewis looks like right now. He's had 2 drives, right? One where he had a couple drop passes where Cornell catches that one again. Freshman, love Cornell. But a freshman drops it, right? Cornell might have taken that to the house, if he caught that. So again, it is we don't even know what Julian Lewis looks like, right? The one we kind of know what looks like is Caden Salter, but again, the offense has to adjust when Salts is in there. So it is I don't think, Houston doesn't know what it looks like, and we don't know what it looks like outside of throwing a couple of, throwing those bubble and tunnel screens out to receivers. That is my takeaway from the offense, or putting Staub in and Staub making a call to go deep, right? So, or Ryan, whatever it is tough. I don't even think we know really what the Colorado offense looks like. So it is tough to prepare for. To be honest, along with Caden Salter, Draylen Miller hasn't been himself, dropping balls and looking uncomfortable too. Yeah, that is after the first week, I was kind of like, okay, now I'm kind of starting to get a little concerned on Dre. And then again with Amar, what you didn't mention this, but Omarion, right? There's that conversation probably needs to start right now. Like what is happening with him? He's always hurt. He has all the talent in the world, but best ability is availability, right? That is one of the things, and I'm really concerned about Omarion and then Draylen as well. So the Miller brothers, who were supposed to be the playmakers and do it all and all these all world, all CU's offense is one's hurt and one's dropping balls, and like you said, Demicles right there, he looks uncomfortable, looks very uncomfortable. So it is this is tough. This is tough. Yeah, and Gennaro said Vickers was a top 100 player that came from the SEC. Yeah, we talked on Monday a little bit more in depth about him. That dude's gonna end up starting is the opposite corner at some point. Way too talented of a kid. When they got him over from OU in the portal in the winter, what was it, December portal? What are they even called? The winter portal, whatever it is, it's called. I was really excited for him. He is one. yeah, I could not believe the Buffs landed him. Him, Jaheim Otis, and Xavier Hill are the ones that I were just like, man, this is big time as well. And even Noah King, right, from what was it, Kansas State as well. Those are big time players. And Makari Vickers, man, he went out there in first action. I wouldn't be shocked if he starts and eventually does take over that position, and that's his position moving forward. So yeah, this is Buff still figuring some things out. And again, this is kind of something we have been used to, but I do think what we can say about the last couple years, though, is that at least we knew who the quarterback was, right? The most important position on the field. Right now, that is just a little bit of a cause for concern for me. But again, I do think Staub takes over this weekend and he runs with it. For how long? Hopefully the rest of the season, but honestly, I don't know. Part of me wants to think that it's going to roll for the rest of the year. He's going to have a big year, that underdog story. The other side of me wants to say, man, this is not good. Right? Like there's a cause for concern here. Quarterback still not figured out. Here we are going into the first, week 3 of the season on the road, and we're gonna let it. We don't know who the number one quarterback is at this point, right? Like regardless of who you start, we don't know. We don't know what that looks like, right? And then let's say they go in there, they win one, they win in Houston, win it, they get Wyoming at home, but then BYU shows up. Like tape's now out there on Ryan Staub. So this is hopefully we leave with answers versus more questions. And that was, kind of what I was saying against Delaware. If we can leave this game with more answers, we did good. So I'm interested in this game. I am nervous, right? Butterflies, all those things. And, I'm not even playing. Just it reminds me of the time we were getting ready to watch my NFL team. And they asked my little brother, she asked my little brother, he's like, man, I'm so nervous. I'm this, I'm that. And she goes, well, are you playing or something? He just looks at her. He's like, yeah. So, but it does feel like that, right? It does feel like we're playing. I'm nervous for butterflies. All those things just really, man, I can't wait for the game on Friday. Nervous for it. Wanted to get here, but then I'm like, man, let's just like give me another day. Give me another day to kind of take this in a little bit. But yeah, we have plenty of talent on the offensive side. Yep. Q for 6, Quentin Blair Gibson. Yep. Joseph Williams, and the tight end. They came from D2, Zach Atkins. We have Shador Sanders 2.0 with the better line. Man, I hope so. Gennaro, if you are right, man, we owe you one. We owe you one. We'll have to work. We'll work something out. But man, I hope so. I really do. The optimistic side says let's roll, right? I start talking about him, and again, like I said, I wrote a piece on who's Ryan Staub, talking, go into depth completely about who he is, who he was in high school, adversity he went through in his first couple years there in Boulder with the Buffs, and how he got to where he is. Again, that's on S2SBuffs.com. You can find my articles on there, but just wrote about who is Ryan Staub. So check that out. And let's see. Russ and Dave gave your stream a shout out earlier this evening. Oh, those dudes are awesome, man. I didn't even catch his. We had the reason we started a little bit later at 7:30 is we had our first, my son had his first football practice from 6 to 7 this evening. But man, I'll have to, Dave, man, I love their show. It's awesome. Him and I, hopefully, we've kind of been going back and forth a little bit. Plan is to get on each other's shows. Because man, he does fantastic work there. They both, Russ and Dave, they do fantastic work covering the Broncos and covering the Buffs. So needless to say, I will not be on there for the Broncos show. Just FYI, I don't think they want me on there for that one, but absolutely for the Colorado Buffs, man. We're trying to get some things worked out to collab together and try to get on each other's show, plan a couple things. But we have some things working behind the scenes. So but yeah, shout out to them too. Dave does a great job. And yeah, so we'll end with that. We have a game Friday. I want to get this last one on. I think the locker room knows who the QB is. That's what's important. Yep, outside world just causes distraction. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. We know exactly who it is. Or sorry, they know exactly who it is. They know who they're behind. They know who they want. And again, you got to kind of think too. Leaders of the team, they have say in it, right? They have say in who the quarterback is. Whatever it is, make a decision and let it roll. And again, it is impressive that the Dion that Prime is able to make this decision. Not a lot of coaches would do it right after all. Your freshman phenom, just throwing him out there and being like, all right, it's arrived. Let's go. We don't have answers. Just let him learn on the fly, right? That's probably that would be the easiest thing to do, right? In this era of NIL or, Caden Salter, whatever it is he got paid to come to see you or whatever it is, your 4-star transfer quarterback, G5 player of the year, right? And it takes, there's what Coach Prime's doing. Not a lot of coaches do, right? They wouldn't, it's the right word here with that, keeping it family friendly. The guts, he would not have the guts to do what Prime's doing right now. So, shout out to him. And again, yet the players know who it is. I feel like we set going forward. Ryan Staub was, yep. Shador Sanders, understudy. He showed that he was more than capable last year with the games he played in replacement of Shador when he was out. Yeah, I always go back to that Utah game. Had a chance winning. He played good, played well enough to win. And again, that's what was that 2 years ago at this point, as a freshman. So again, I'm hopeful he's the answer. I am rooting for him. He has a 110% support from me. Whatever it means, my family, and the whole production here at the with Colorado S2S Colorado Live. Like he's gonna ball out. I do think they're gonna win. I do think it's gonna get ugly at times where we're all kind of, oh man, this sucks. Like here we go. I do think we get there, but again, that's part of football. That's part of it happens, man. That's part of the game, the ebbs and flows of the game. So it is, let's not get too high, get too low during the game, and just roll with it. So on Friday though, we have our 5:30 kickoff. We're scheduled Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Friday, maybe I'll jump on before. It'll be quick. I want to go over keys to the game, but we will for sure. We'll for sure, maybe even tomorrow. Let me see what the schedule looks like, but be on the lookout for. I'll shout it out there on X, on Instagram. If when the show's going to be, just look for. If it's not tomorrow at 6, we'll talk a little bit. We'll talk before the game on Friday. And then, as always, we'll do the post game. So just something to talk about, and hopefully some, I don't want to say more information. I don't think we're going to know much about the starter, but, I look forward to this weekend, to this Friday kickoff, right? So, as always, I do appreciate y'all. Hopefully you guys enjoyed my interview with Parker Ainsworth there of Locked On COOGS. Just an amazing guy. Tons of fun. Again, that is one of the best, outside of talking with the fans here and enjoy, all of those things. It's just meeting all these different people, right? And getting to connect with them and getting the feel, the vibes of the different programs. Just a lot of fun. So again, hopefully I reached out, not a ton of Wyoming football, but there is reached out to a couple of guys today. Hopefully we're able to get them on the show. If not, we'll figure something out to get someone on from Wyoming football. So, as always, I appreciate every single one of you. Okay, I do have to read this real quick from KJ2 Entertainment. The reason Salter is not doing well is because this is a pro-style offense and not designed for a running style QB. I don't think Staub will struggle if he can get the protection up front to the. Yeah, that went through my mind too. And I don't think that's a Caden Salter problem. You all recruited him here in the portal and knew exactly who he was. And again, this is not Caden Salter's fault. Let me get that 110% out there, right? And again, it's not all Pat Shurmur's fault, right? On some of those run when Salts can take off and get it. But at the same time, you should have adjusted your whole offense for Caden Salter, knowing that this is who he is. You cannot change that. What it feels like is they're trying to change him. It does not feel good. So again, I do agree with you there, though. This is why he looks the way he does, right? And everything is thinking, processing, right? Even when he's being told in his ear, like, this is a pro style offense. You got to learn how to throw the football. So then he sees, 8 to 12 yards of green ahead of him. He's like, no, they said I have to throw it. So it is, this does not feel good. Exactly. I'm with you, man. KJ2. I'm with you 110% here. Like, this is the guy you recruited. You know who you recruited. You know exactly who he was. But here we are. So cannot agree with your, with you. Can't agree with you anymore at that point. But yeah, I'm gonna log off. But again, I appreciate you guys. Again, follow on X at Manny _ 303, on IG X _ 303 _ Manny. And as always, Buff Line's always open. Make sure we shoot a text there. And again, we'll catch you guys either Thursday or Friday. But absolutely appreciate every single one of you guys. Again, without you, there is no show. And we'll catch you guys this weekend, tomorrow or Friday. Yeah, I'm really excited for the weekend. So, but as always, though, and again, Gennaro, KJ2, I do see your guys' questions. The comment on the video, again, like always, we have our Buff Line. Again, this is strictly just for the Buff Line. Nobody else has access to it. Let me get it pulled up here on the bottom. 970-614-5771. And I'll get them on the show next time and answer them. But yeah, I see them. I love the questions. So yeah, KJ2, hit me up on the Buff Line and let's talk. Yeah, I would love to have you guys on. I know we have some college shows, but let's talk. Hit me up on that Buff Line. And we'll let's talk a little bit if that's cool. So but anyway, as always, have a good evening. We'll catch y'all tomorrow. And again, thank y'all for joining the show. And as always, like Heisman Trophy winner, as Heisman Trophy winner, Travis Hunter says, "Go Buffs, baby." All right, all have a good evening. Thanks for joining.